What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as J Monster, and I have another 3 versus 3 multiplayer battle for you today. We are playing 3rd Age Reforged, a wonderful modification for 3.2 3rd Age. It's incredible, and it's done a lot for the multiplayer community. And thank you so much to Sin of the Dark Cloud and the other people who worked on this, like Kuroguro-chan. I absolutely recommend that you go and download this mod. Come and join us on the official Discord. I will put all the information that you guys need to do that in the channel. And yeah, just join the community. Have lots of fun with us. So we're going to go over the army compositions before we start here. The first army is commanded by me. I am playing as the Sylvan Elves. I have 1 unit of Elder King's Guard, 3 units, I believe, of Sylvan Heavy Archers, 4 units of Here and X Spearmen, very elite Spearmen, definitely worth the price. 3 units of Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen, 2 units of Woodland Warriors. I've also got a Ballista sitting up here on the ridge. Yeah, there it is right there. And in addition to that, I also have 2 units of the Elder Pathfinders. These are amazing heavy cavalry, although they are very vulnerable to missiles. Most of their defense value, I believe, comes from their melee defense and a little bit of armor. So you kind of want to keep these guys out of missile range as best as you possibly can. We're going to move up here to my ally who's occupied the hill. This is Acrutix, who is playing as the Clansman of Rune. He's got 1 unit of Clansmen, 3 units of Variag Bowmen, positioned very wisely up here in this hill. In support of them, he's got a Catapult. Down here is where the bulk of his army is. He's got 2 units of, or rather, he's got 1 unit of the Wind Riders of Khan, very, very swift light cavalry, great for launching ambushes on your enemy forces. He's got 2 units of Brotherhood of the Lance, 1 unit of Khamul's Shadow Guard. Khamul is one of the only Easterlings in the Lord of the Rings trilogy who has a name. He hails from Dol Guldur. He was actually in charge of that fortress in southern Mirkwood. So, but he was also an Easterling, so that would explain the presence of these units in this army. He's got 2 units of the Loke Scion Rim, heavy spearmen, 2 hit points, very great at holding the line. 3 units of Brotherhood of the Axe, excellent shock troops, low number, but they also have 2 hit points, so they will stick around in combat for a very long time. He's also got 2 units of Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen, a very, very solid infantry corps here. A lot of these units have 2 hit points, so they're very, very durable. These guys are anti-infantry version. I don't believe they have armor pierce or anything like that. He's got 2 units of Nomadic Warriors light infantry. He's going to use these in some pretty clever ways in the battle, and you guys will see that. I think you'll enjoy it as much as I do. I'm pretty sure that's the entirety of his army. We're going to move on down here to D.I. King Pug, who's playing as the Dwarves. He's got 2 units of Ironfoot Pikemen, 3 units of Ironfoot Crossbowmen, 6 units of Ironfoot Warriors, very tough heavy infantry. He's also got a couple units down here of Orc Hunters, Khazad Orc Hunters. These guys they've got more range than the crossbows, but they lack the armor-piercing component, and I don't think that they are quite so heavily armored. So they're good for skirmishing with factions like the Elves or just about anybody else who has long-range bows and you don't want to sacrifice your crossbows on the approach. He's got 3 units of Axemen of Erebor here hiding behind these Ironfoot crossbowmen. In addition to that, he's also got 2 units of Sons of Durin. These are very powerful shock infantry, armor piercing, low numbers but high hit points. And I believe this is where his general is hiding out. He's got 1 unit of Balin's Guard. These are very, very good heavy infantry. They will hold the line for an extremely long time. So that is it for our team. We're going to go over here and check out the army of Reims. This is one of the few occasions where I'm actually not able to tell you exactly what he has because his troops are so blobbed up on this ridge. He's got, I think, between 3 to 4 units of dismounted Railguard Spearmen, probably 2 to 3 of the Aorling Archers. He's also got a unit back here of Rittermark Heavy Axemen, very good shock troops, very, very excellent on the charge. Hiding over in the woods, he's got 2 units, I believe, of Arid Heavy Lancers, and up here on this ridge, he's got 2 units of Royal Guard Cavalry. These guys are excellent cavalry. They have 2 hit points, but like all Royal Guard units, they lack armor piercing. So one of the things that he's really going to suffer from in this battle is his lack of armor piercing. So we're going to move over the crest of this hill, down into the canyon, and take a look at the High Elf player commanded by Eben BR16. He has a little bit less of a traditional high elf army. Actually, I really like it when I see people do unconventional forces like this. Most people just kind of stack the heavy infantry, get as much as they can. He actually has some light infantry in this battle. He's got 3 units of Sword Quendi, 2 units of the Lindon Longspears, who are excellent against cavalry and pretty good against armor. He's got 1 unit of Elder Rainway Archers, 2 units of Nori Tirno Archers, and 1 unit of Bow Quendi to round it all off. In addition to that, he's got 3 units of Mythlon Nobles, and over in the back here, he's got a couple units of Elder Rinway Swordsmen. And last, but certainly not least, he has the redoubtable Smiths of Erogen, an excellent, heavily armored, armor-piercing unit, very good at holding choke points. And to top it all off, sorry, that isn't actually the last unit. He's got 2 units of Noritino Cavalry. These are like a medium cavalry. They're a lot lighter than their Elder Rinway Lancer counterparts, and they do not have shields, but they are good on the charge, but they are not very good for sticking around in a fight. So these are very much shock cavalry. And we're going to move down here. This guy definitely got the worst deployment, having to deploy down here away from his allies, so he is in a position to easily reinforce them. He is playing as Arnor, and his forces are also a little bit smushed up, so I can't quite tell exactly what he's got, but I think he's got at least 2 units of Dunedain Steel Bowmen, and that's one of the things about Arnor. If you're thinking of getting into this game, Arnor, contrary to how they work in vanilla, where it's their cavalry that's really good and their infantry is like just about as good as Gondor's, the strength of Arnor in this mod seems to be their bowmen. The Dunedain Steel Bowmen, if you get them in a good position, they will weather arrows for an entire battle, maybe lose half the unit, and decimate enemy archers. These guys are amazing. In addition to that, he's got some lighter Dunedain Rangers. He's got 3 units of Arnor Knights, I believe, are all stacked together in there. 1 unit of Dunedain Bodyguards, a catapult. I think he's got between 3 and 4 units of Arthurdine Men-at-Arms, 1 unit, I believe, of the dismounted Dunedain Knights, possibly 2 units, but I think there's only just 1 of the battle-ready Dunedain, a couple of units of Pikes, 1 or 2 units of Arnor Men-at-Arms, and some Hobbits! We never see Hobbits in a battle. It's so exciting. We've got some really interesting army compositions that kind of break from the norm. So without any further ado, we're going to get right into the battle. It starts off a little bit slow here. I've deployed most of my forces up here on this hill, leaving some of them down here to move over to the Runic player's hill fortress here and to help him fortify it, and to support any possible pushes on the part of the Rune player into the High Elven lines. But up on the hill, I've deployed my forces such because I expected him, well, not really expected, I wasn't sure what to expect, in truth. It was possible for him to deploy up here, so I considered deploying a large portion of my forces over here to contest this hill access right here up onto the highlands. But the Arnor player did not want to fight uphill, probably a very wise decision on his part, and deployed over here instead. So having these guys up here doesn't really present a menace to any force, so we're going to start to pull them off the hill pretty shortly. Whoops. I've got my Hiri Bang charging up onto this hill. I'm going to get them into a nice position in the front here, where they can be supported by this catapult and start taking some shots down into the High Elven force, who I believe is within range. But the not too much going on here, just the Runic player and the High Elven player just staring each other down across the field. He's just biding his time, allowing me to get into position before he makes his move. The Dwarven player here is beginning to skirmish with the Rohan player. He's getting his ballista into position, and if you look up here, this is very tempting. Very tempting. This is a very scary looking shield wall. I would of course not want to charge up into this, and neither does the Dwarven player. So he's going to soften it up, because one of the big problems with blobbing up your troops rather like this is that it attracts arrow and artillery fire. This is a big sign over your head that says, please shoot me with lots of missiles. So what he should be doing, I would think, is to pull back down here and try and support his allies. At least that's what I would do. It's nothing against the player. It's not an attack on the player. This is just a suggestion on what could be done a little bit better, because he is very vulnerable up on this hill. He should also probably get his Aeorling archers into loose formation, get them in some nice spaghetti strings. He's got a pretty decent area to deploy his troops in up here, so he should make use of it. But at the same time, he's starting to move forward. His Rohirric cavalry is going to try and scoot around the Dwarven right flank, coming in behind them, presenting a menace to the rear, which is a really good idea on his part. A lot of these troops aren't really prepared to take a heavy cavalry charge straight on, especially if he can get into these Axemen of Erebor. He will flatten these units, and then the Dwarven player, D.I. King Pug, will be down. So very valuable, very powerful units. I believe he's also moving his Royal Guard in support, so he's committing his entire cavalry force to this flanking action here, which I would probably hold a little bit back, but honestly, he's doing a pretty good thing here, getting in behind the enemy lines, presenting a menace to our rear. Uh-oh, it looks like his ballista is finally into position, so we're going to start to see some incoming fire here. Let's watch. Oh, they're almost ready. Boom! See who's gonna get anybody. Oh, that's so devastating. This is exactly what I was talking about. Oh, that one unlucky guy went right through his face. Oh, the guys in the front there are sweating right now. So the Dwarven player is continuing his bombardment of the Rohan player. In the meantime, I've gotten my archers up here onto the hill, and we're starting to shoot down into these sword quendi right here. I don't think we've managed to kill any of them so far. I don't know. We have. There's a couple on the ground. Yeah, they're just taking some pretty deadly fire from those Hiri Bang archers. Looks like the Kingdom of Arnor here sallying forward with one of his broken units of cavalry. I think one of the things we missed earlier was that, yeah, the Kingdom of Arnor here, he sallied forth with his cavalry in a doomed movement here to try and attack my supply lines. And my heavy cavalry was just able to see them off, along with a little bit of help from the swordsmen we have up here in the hill. But it looks like they're charging forward here. He's a big gap in these lines, and I guess he's going to try and support the Rohirric flanking movement. He's going to try and scoot his troops right through here, but it's not going to go very well for them. Oh, he's going to charge right into these frontal charge from these Brotherhood of the Lance. Very brave, but very ill-advised. You've got some archer support up there on the hill, and his troops they're not going to last very long. They're already down to 6, and now they are broken. So they're going to be completely devastated, unfortunately, for that player. So the Rohan player continuing his flanking movement, walking his troops. It's a good idea to walk them, although I probably would have run them a little bit, try and get them into position. He managed to scoot his heavy Aerid lancers here in behind the Dwarven line, taking minimal losses. Only a couple of them, I believe, got killed. So good job getting them into position. But it's around this point that my ally starts to point these units out to us and to ask for help. So I'm going to take my heavy cavalry right here pretty shortly, and we're going to start to move out to support our allies in surrounding these Rohirric cavalry and destroying them completely. At least that's what we're going to try and do. You'll see what happens. See what's going on over here. It looks like the bombardment of the Rohan player is continuously underway. He's still got a lot of troops up here. They are now in loose formation, except for these guys. Unfortunately, if he decides to start shooting these troops here, he's gonna destroy them almost by rank. But he's got them into loose formation, but they're still just taking so much damage. This is a very expensive unit. This is not how you want to lose your Royal Guard. And it looks like we're finally moving out our heavy cavalry. You can see, yeah, my 2 units of Elder Pathfinders moving across this hill, moving down into this valley here, so that we can begin to surround and eliminate this threat in our rear. This is a really good thing to do. The only problem is that there's nothing to prevent him from pulling off infantry or pulling off whatever he wants to take down his cavalry. What he really needs to be doing is, if this is what he wants to do, is to support this attack with the rest of his army, who's just sitting back here, just taking losses, not really doing a whole lot. Maybe convincing the High Elven player as well to move in. We can see some skirmish action here. Akrutix, his bowmen, moving into range of the High Elven forces, firing down into the valley, going to get some easy kills off on those Northern archers, who I believe are actually outranged by these bowmen by virtue of the fact that they have a higher elevation. So in Medieval 2, higher elevations offers a range bonus to your ranged troops. Let's take a look at what's going on back here. You can see the Rohirric cavalry. Oh, he lost micro on his troops here. They're going to take a devastating charge in the rear from these Brotherhood of the Lance. They're just cutting down these heavy lancers. This is not what the Rohan player wants to have happen. So many of them are dying. So many of them are going down. This is just the destruction of his already bare bones cavalry force. Oh my goodness! You can see the Akrutix moving around. Oh, I thought he was going for a surround, but I think he's pulling off. Yeah, he's bringing in his Royal Guard here in support, and Akrutix is charging his Brotherhood of the Lance into the fray. A lot of blood being spilt here, but these Brotherhood of the Lance, strong though they are, you do not want to mess with the Royal Guard. The Royal Guard are very powerful cavalry units, so it looks like Akrutix is charging in some reinforcements in the form of his Wind Riders of Khan, but it is not going to matter. You do not mess with the Royal Guard. They are going to push back this runic assault, and he's going to lose a significant portion of his cavalry force. But as you can see, help is on the way. I've got my Elder Pathfinders over here in the wood. What we're going to try and do, we don't want to charge in just immediately, because I know that the Rohan player is going to want to retreat. So we're going to try and surround them. You can see, Oh, looks like we've got a unit of air raid heavy lancers that we are or 2 units of them rather that we are chasing down. They managed to escape from combat with Brotherhood of the Lance, but while we're chasing them down, we're moving in a unit of our Pathfinders to try and cut off the retreat of the Royal Guard. And at the same time, you can see the Dwarven infantry arriving. Another charge going in by the Wind Riders of Khand, and a charge being supported by the Axemen of Erebor. So his Royal Guard are in a lot of trouble, and he sees this, so he's going to start to pull out. I'm going to move my cavalry in to try and get a flank charge. We're only going to just barely brush the back of these Royal Guard, and they are going to be allowed to escape. But he's taking arrow fire as well. D.I. King Pug doing a great job of supporting his troops. A 3-army effort here to run these guys down, but at the same time, you can see some action going on over here. See if we can get there before the charge goes down. Oh yeah, you can see the High Elven player has taken advantage of this chaos, and while I'm over there trying to micro my troops to catch these Rohirric troops, he's brought his Noritino cavalry into my Sylvan archers, and this is not vanilla, unfortunately, for this medium cav. Archers will not go down easily to cav chargers, especially not heavy archers like this. So his Noritino cavalry are actually going to get the worst of it. They're going to start to be pushed back. Got another charge going off here, but you can see my army starting to come to life as I realize what's happening. He's got a charge going off into the back of my spearmen, but honestly, it was not a good target to pick, even though they were turned around. I managed to get them turned to face the charge just in time, but it's not going to go very well for me. You can see a lot of dead horsemen. So one of these units here of the Noritino cavalry broken. You can see 18 of them, still a reasonably healthy unit, able to accomplish some things on the battlefield, running in fear, but he does manage to scoot away 26 of his heavy cavalry, so he's going to double back. He's going to come back, maybe try and get a charge on my my woodland warriors, but he veered away at the last moment, allowing these anti-cavalry units in amongst his troops, and they're going to just cut them down. They're being supported by arrow fire over here from the Sylvan heavy archers, and at the same time, I'm bringing in my general's bodyguard, my Elder King's Guard, a 3 HP per model in this unit. 3 HP bodyguard unit, very, very tough. But you want to be careful how you commit them because they do attract arrows on the battlefield. This is another unit with a sign over its head that says, "Please murder me." But my Woodland Warriors here seeing these guys off, and my General's Bodyguard being able to just bully the remains of these Noritino cavalry away from my army. So that's going to be the end of these Noritino cavalry. I'm actually going to be able to hunt them down much later, and they're not going to be able to do anything. But we'll show you that when we get to it. Looks like the skirmish phase still going on. I hear Ebang firing down into these unprotected troops here. I think I managed to get a lot of pretty nice kills on his light infantry here before he started moving them backwards. So managed to inflict some light casualties into these light Quendi, or these sword Quendi, these light infantry. So the Noritino here suffering quite badly at the hands of his skirmish forces. You can see a lot of them have died. Well, not too many of them, but the casualties are going to continue to mount. Look at this suicidal charge into the front of these Rohirric forces. Very brave unit of Brotherhood of the Lance. Very, very brave, but very foolish. So these units are actually just going to be thrown under the bus. You can see more incoming artillery fire. Just devastation. Another ballista shot coming in, destroying these dismounted Royal Guard, who are honestly helpless up here in this hill. So by the time that the Dwarven player closes ranks and is able to assault this position, his defensive wall is going to be very much weakened. Even though a lot of them are in loose formation, they're all stacked on top of each other, so it's like they're not even in loose formation at all. Another one of the Royal Guard going down. Very unlucky. He's the only one who gets picked off. It's like the Dwarven catapult crews were just like, hey, see that guy? Fuck that guy in particular, and then they pick him off. Just devastation being wreaked among the Rohirric lines. You can see a Sally Fourth here. Looks like some of the Variag bowmen moving up to continue to assault this position. That does bring them into range of the entire High Elven infantry force, the archer force rather. So the Noritino are going to start to pour fire into these advancing Variag troops. But they're reasonably well armored rather, and they have shields, so they're going to be able to weather that storm for at least a little while. At the same time, the Dwarven crossbowmen, a lot of great teamwork here. These two players moving up their troops, Ironfoot crossbowmen moving into position to start raining devastation down on these heavy infantry. These guys are armor piercing, and they are amazing for what they do. And they're not too expensive either, so they are very cost efficient, so it's worth it to bring as many of them as you possibly can. At least we got 2 units. We've got some infantry action here. 2 units of nomadic warriors moving in, supporting this thrust up here into the Rohan infantry line. At the same time, this very brave unit of nomadic warriors thrusting forward absolutely without fear, rushing the ranks of the High Elven archers. They're in a pretty bad formation though, because this allows them to be surrounded very easily. So as he charges forward, all these arrows here are going to be hitting all of his troops at the same time, and they are in loose formation. But it's just going to soar over the ranks of the first few troops, hit everybody in behind. You can see a lot of men going down in the initial charge, and then the High Elven player here, Ibn BR16, is going to start to move up his light infantry. And they're going to blunt this charge here before he can get to his archers. Going to pull his archers back in the last second. Very good troop movements rather on the part of the High Elven player. And at the same time, even BR16 is moving in a unit of Sword Quenzi. A fresh unit here, have taken 0 casualties. They're going to swiftly reform and then charge down the hill into the unprotected flank of this nomadic warrior. They're just going to get sandwiched and cut to pieces. But I'm not sure what the runic player here is doing at the same time. But I think he threw these guys under the bus so that he could get some easy kills into the rear of these Sword Quendi. So he's going to start to rain arrows into here, pulling off a King of England moment from Braveheart, where he says to his generals that arrows cost money, but the dead cost nothing. So he's just throwing this unit under the bus. And at the same time, I'm moving up my forces here. Looks like we've managed to run down most of the High Elven cavalry. You can see my general's bodyguard over here. Oh, there they are, making a charge. They've already destroyed 1 unit of his cavalry. So at the same time that all this chaos is going on over here, I'm trying to take advantage of his losing micro on his troops. So we're going to charge into these Norreturner cavalry and we're going to destroy them. But at the same time, as I was saying, I'm bringing up the rest of my army here into a great flanking position. So we're going to establish a wall of spears and swords and start raining some death and destruction down into these High Elven forces, who are very much cornered at this point. You can see Rune and the dwarves focusing on Rohan, who is just not able to do anything. You can see those nomadic warriors have been repulsed, and now the Royal Guard are pursuing them down the hill. But the Dwarven player taking his time, and he's got some support from the Runic player, a lot of great teamwork, and he's just not able to do anything. He's running low on heavy infantry. They're taking a lot of damage, and his archers here, once they start to be focused down, they are going to be very, very vulnerable because they are not in loose formation. Whoop. So we look down here, you can see the light infantry fight. All of them have been pretty much destroyed. All of his nomadic warriors are in a bad spot. They are now all dead. He's got a unit of Sword Quendi that didn't take too much damage. These ones here are looking a little bit worse for wear, especially this one down to 57. He's done a good job putting his troops in the light formation here, but I would spread them out just a little bit more so they're not right on top of each other. It's a mistake that we see pretty often because at this point they're still vulnerable to arrow fire despite being in loose formation, because it's so easy for stray arrows that normally wouldn't hit anybody to just to kill some of your troops that you really just don't want to lose. So Rune bringing in more of his infantry here. I think he's just trying to soak up some High Elven lives and some High Elven arrows. But this is another unsupported charge, although he is bringing in some heavy hitters in loose formation. We've got some Loki's Scion Rim, some very powerful units supported by some Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen. And at the same time, he is just pummeling this High Elven position. So even though he's not supporting his infantry charges nearly as well as could be hoped, he's doing a great job at locking these High Elves down. You can see his Elder Ringway archers, so many of them are dying, and along with these Bowquendi, they're just taking so much damage from the massed ranks of his Variag bowmen, who, while not in a spaghetti line formation, there is actually a purpose for this, and it allows you to focus down one small area very, very quickly. And so he's done a great job of doing that. And the High Elven forces here, drawing his opponent back, getting out of range of his archers, trying to draw his army forward. He's set up a nice defensive line here, a light infantry in the front to take the charge, with some heavy infantry in the back. He's moving his Lindon long spears back this way, and seeing that my ally needs some help, I'm actually going to begin my assault. You can see my Huron Ek moving into position, barely managing to skirt under the fire of that ballista. The Arnor player bracing for the charge as my High Elven, my Huron Ek, my Sylvan Elf spearman rather, charge into combat. It's gonna go down right here. Look at this. The general charge into these Arthedain men-at-arms, and I'm actually going to be able to beat them because, like I said, the strength of Arnor is not their infantry. But at the same time, I see that my runic ally here needs a lot of help. He's doing a good job getting rid of these sword quendi, but he is bunched up and therefore vulnerable to missile fire from the High Elves and artillery fire from the Kingdom of Arnor. But I'm charging some of my Woodland Warriors into battle, denying the charge to his Elder Rinway Swordsmen. They are going to be able to beat the Woodland Warriors, but we are going to take a big bite out of a very valuable unit. Some devastating fire here, but it is coming from his catapult, but it's a double-edged sword. He manages to smush a whole bunch of these sword quendi, but at the same time, he fires a stray cannonball shot into the back of his Dragon's Wrath guildsmen, who are now losing this fight against the light infantry. This is a fight that they absolutely should be winning. You can see more forces being poured into the... Oh my goodness, devastation! But more of his forces are pouring into combat here. These Bariag bowmen, now out of ammunition, charging into the flank of these sword quendi. Up here, his Dragon's Wrath guildsmen surrounded, but still doing work. They've inflicted a lot of casualties on these Mithlond nobles, doing a lot of damage to these Lindon Longspears. But the High Elven player has outflanked him, surrounded this very valuable unit. So it's an excellent job on the part of Eben VR16. Back here, you can see I've moved my my heavy archers into formation, and we're going to start to pummel these Arthedain lines here. I'm going to take some of my, or actually the entirety of my heavy cavalry force, both of my units of Elder Pathfinders. Things are going pretty poorly for me, or at least it seems that way from my perspective, even though I am managing to beat most of his infantry down here in the field. But I'm going to try and give my troops an advantage, try and surprise the Arthedain player, and soon to be the High Elf player. So you can see as things are going poorly for them down in the valley, he's going to start to retreat his forces up onto this hill where they're going to make their last stand. But to surprise these guys, I'm going to start moving my heavy cavalry around the back. I can see that he's got his bodyguard unit, and if I can take these, maybe I can break some of his troops who are losing the combat down at the bottom of this hill. But the Arthedain player, or the Kingdom of Arnor, he's got a lot of Arthedain units. He's not going to go for it. He's actually going to see these guys coming up this hill, and I'm going to take some pretty terrible losses. So I'm going to move the cavalry forward. We can take a look at what's going on down here. He's managed to repulse a lot of my shock troops, which is going to free up this flank to start moving his troops up onto this hill. You can see a lot of dead Woodland Warriors, but this Elder Rinway Swordsman unit heavily reduced. I've got a Hammered Anvil charge going off into the backs of these Sword Quendi, who are going to be completely annihilated by the Runic player. So a lot of fierce combat going on down there in the canyon surrounded by these three peaks. You can see my troops here definitely getting the worst of it. He blunts my charge with his very tough unit of Dunedain dismounted knights, and he's going to push me back off this hill. Seeing that this is going very poorly for me, I should have pulled this unit back earlier, so I am going to lose most of them. But I managed to save this unit of Elder Pathfinders. But this unit is going to get absolutely devastated. So a big mistake on my point, or on my part, letting these units die. So I managed to get them out, but then they get pulled back in for some reason. This is a little bit of medieval pathfinding shenanigans. The ironic part here is that the Elder Pathfinders are not very good at finding their way around. So he wins a pretty nice minor victory over my heavy cavalry and protects his rear. So great job to him. C Mango, that is his name. I always forget to sometimes I forget to give all the names of the players. So C Mango doing a great job here, pushing my my cavalry back. At the same time, I'm trying to give my forces an advantage at the bottom of the hill, and with some cavalry charges from my general's bodyguard, who is having fire rained into them. You can see the High Elven forces up there, just prioritizing their targets really well, shooting at my general. But these Hirin-Ak doing a great job beating down these Arthedain men-at-arms. Sword versus spear is usually, by the conventional Total War metric, is usually a bad matchup for those spears. But my spears are pushing him back. Arthedain men-at-arms surrounded on three sides, just being pummeled by this elite High Elven, or Sylvan Elf infantry, rather. And we're managing to cut down his flank. It looks like he was bringing some of his Dunedain Steel Bowmen into the fight to support his infantry line, but he's thought better of it, and that's a good decision on his part. He's going to move them back up into this hill, onto the top of this hill. They're going to start to rain death down on my Hirin-Ak, and my lines are going to be devastated by the accurate, deadly fire from his bowmen up in the hill. So great job to the Kingdom of Arnor player, C Mango. You can see Rune beginning his assault, supporting my troops. I've lost a lot of Elven soldiers. We had a couple units of Sylvan Swordsmen and Woodland Warriors. They were doing work against the Arthedain men-at-arms. They've managed to wipe each other out, but I have no numbers left to continue the assault. So Akrutix is bringing in his soldiers, helping me out. This is great to see a lot of teamwork going on in this battle. It's definitely needed.
The enemy general lies dead.
So it looks like the Dwarven player has moved up onto the hill and has started to destroy the Rohan player in detail, as if there's ever any doubt. Looks like he had a little bit of help here in the assault from a few units of Brotherhood of the Axe. Got 2 units of Ironfoot crossbowmen, 3 units, all of them are here, and I believe they still have ammunition, so they're going to play a part later in the battle. But Rohan and his allies, I believe Arnor actually pulled some of his forces up here to try and help out his ally. They are pushed up the hill. All they have left is archers. And you can see some cavalry and some archers of Akrutix coming in, charging their lines and cutting down a whole bunch of these lightly armored units. So this is where his Dunedain Rangers actually ended up being deployed. That's why we didn't see them over there in the main battle. So it is over for the Rohan player. More Ironfoot warriors pouring up the hill. There's just really no chance they have for anything resembling a victory. The rest of his forces have already routed down this hill. You can see some of them off in the distance there running for their lives. And now begins the bombardment. Rune has brought up his catapult. He's going to start taking bites out of these pikemen. Pikemen are amazing for holding choke points, but they are extremely vulnerable to all kinds of missile fire, especially from artillery, and especially from this angle. The catapult has he has a beautiful shot, a wonderful arc. You can see it right there. Just missed. Also missed there. This is why I brought a ballista generally. Ballistas are going to rack up a lot more kills than catapults, but when catapults hit, they can be devastating. They can destroy entire units, as you guys saw in our last 3v3 battle. Oh, let's see what happens. That one looks like it's going to hit, but only got one person, but it's a very valuable Mithlon Noble unit. You can see his catapult up here, firing down into these Loki Scion Rim. A few of them have already gone down to missile fire. Actually, quite a lot of them, as you can see, they're leaving behind just a pile of their dead. But he sees the danger that he's in, and he's going to get underneath of the catapult's firing arc. So now he's going to be safe, and he's going to start to move these Loki Scion Rim into the fray. I believe, let's see, this unit, he's going to move them into the center here to try and support what remains of my units. I've expended a lot of my heavy infantry at this point, trying to take this position. I can see the remains of my Woodland Warriors doing really well against these armored pikemen. They are very good at taking down armored units, especially low defense units like these armored pikemen. They have such a high attack value that it's really devastating for them. But you're going to start to see in a second here, the Arnor player is going to reinforce his position. My Huron Ek they're doing their best, but there's just not very many of them left. They've taken so much damage from the steel bowmen up on the hill. Like I said, the strength of Arnor is definitely his archers, and they have shown that today. Just gunning down so many of my troops. You can see a lot. Look at this right here. There's not even any enemy units near them. This is just a lot of bow fire. So I'm going to start to move in one of my last units of heavy infantry to support my Huron Ek's assault on this hill. My last unit of Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen charging into the flanks of these, looks like some battle-ready Dunedain and the remains of his Arthedain men-at-arms have been pushed up onto the hill. And the Arnor player sees this, so he's going to start to move in some of his pikes, doing a great job using his forces, what limited forces he has available to him, to counteract this flanking movement by my Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen. It's still in the balance, says that victory seems certain, but a lot of my troops here, due to that flanking movement, are going to start to go down. And these battle-ready Dunedain are probably fresh at this point. So are my Sylvan Swordsmen, but these guys are actually able to take them in pretty much a straight one-on-one fight. There is a bit of a fatigue disparity. His battle-ready Dunedain are warmed up, whereas mine are just fresh. But honestly, it's not going to make a lick of difference. A lot of this is due to the fact that I'm trying to pour some archer fire into these troops to support this charge, but I am actually hitting some of my own troops in the back. You can see making a bit of a mistake here, and I don't realize what's going on because this battle is just so chaotic. But I believe I'm starting to move down the remains of my troops that were up there on the hill. We got my unit of Hiri Beng, unit of Sylvan Heavy Archers, and I think, yeah, over and behind I'm bringing my ballista down into the valley so that we can start to take some pot shots at these units, but it's going to take a long time for that slow unit to get into position, so I should have done this earlier. A bit of a mistake in terms of deployment on my part. Let's take a look at the carnage caused by the Dwarven player. You can see so many troops.
The enemy general
Oh, it looks like, oh my goodness, looks like the Arnor general went down in combat against my swordsman over there at the bottom of the hill. But look at this. So many troops have died to artillery fire. You can see all of these burnt bodies. That's all from the artillery fire, the combined forces of the dwarves and Rune. Just taking a bite out of the Rohan player. Yeah, I probably would have moved my army off of this vulnerable position down here, because he brought no counter artillery whatsoever. It was mostly infantry and a little bit of cavalry. So I probably would have moved them down here to support the High Elves in their endeavors against myself and Rune's infantry. Another bloody battle that took place here. He managed to surround them and destroy most of his infantry before they could get up onto the hill. So we did a good job at whittling down our enemy forces, and so hats off to the guys on my team. But despite that, the High Elven player managed to get some really important units up onto this hill, and they're just raining death and destruction down into this blob of allied troops. We've got some runic troops, we've got some Brotherhood of the Axe, some Variag archers, and some Ironfoot warriors who are all supporting this push up the hill. And of course you've got what remains of my Sylvan forces, who I think have been completely wiped out. Most of my heavy infantry is gone. I think that Sylvan heavy swordsman unit was my last unit. But an opportunity has opened. One door closes and another opens, as the Arnor troops have exposed their flank to my archers. So you can see some archer fire coming in here. A lot of these units don't have shields, or it's not even on their shield side, so they won't get the bonus anyway. So this is a really good spot for me to start pouring some archer fire, and I've still got a lot of archers. My archer companies are almost full strength, except for this one unit who took the charge earlier. So yeah, you can see me moving the rest of my troops that I brought down from the hill into position so we can start firing to this massive blob of Dunedain troops and start to deal a lot of casualties and whittle down this line, because there's still a lot of troops remaining to hold this position. Oops. A little bit of lag right there. The Dunedain Steel Bowmen now officially out of ammunition, and they've been taking some shots too. And they start with about 62 in the unit, and they're only down to 50. You can see just how strong these guys are. They've also got their two-handed swords, so they're going to try and come down here and outflank these Brotherhood of the Axe and these Loki Scion Rim, the remains of Rune's heavy infantry. This is a nice move on the part of the Arnor player. See, Mango knows what he's doing, definitely. But as they come in, they're going to start to take a lot of archer fire from my troops, because I can see what's going on, and I don't want to let him do this. So one of them has gone down, and now they're going to start to get shot in the flank and the rear. So a lot more of them are going to start to die. It's a very valuable unit here, charging up the hill into the backs of these Rohan of these runic infantry. Excellent job on the part of Steel Mango, but unfortunately it leaves him vulnerable to missile shots from behind, so they're not going to be as effective in crushing this infantry blob as they might have otherwise been. Oh man, some of the Dwarven Ironfoot crossbowmen taking some casualties from the catapult up on the hill. Oh, no, that's not going to get anybody, not this time. I need to get these troops in the loose formation, but I'm sure he knows that. Let's see what we got here. Unit of Camel Shadow Guard. I don't know where they've been the entire fight. I think they were probably assisting the Dwarven player in crushing Rohan's forces up on the hill. But Camel Shadow Guard, remains of them charging into battle with their epic halberds. I love those. They're just brutal, vicious looking, like meat cleavers. Charging up here to crash into the back of these steel bowmen and deal a lot of damage to them, I'm sure. But things are going very poorly for Rune's infantry. They have been outflanked, and they're just being crushed by the combined forces of these Dunedain Knights here, who have now been committed to the fight. Looks like the Dunedain Steel Bowmen have moved from their position. He sees that they are very vulnerable, taking a lot of arrow fire from behind. He's going to move them into the back of the rest of Rune's troops. And Rune is really struggling right here, and that puts the dwarves in danger as well. Their flank is no longer safe. Oh no, I couldn't tell if these were arrow shots or from the crossbowmen, or if they were rain, but it turns out they're arrows. So these two units of archers up here that have hitherto been able to just rain down death with impunity against our allied forces are now taking a lot of damage from the crossbowmen down there. These Elder Rinway archers are just going to get devastated by volley fire from the crossbows at the bottom of the hill. You can see a nice catapult shot here from in the background, just crunching these iron crossbowmen. A big bite taken out of this unit. Let's see what we got. Looks like the Dwarven player has arrived in earnest, and he's moving in a lot of his heavy infantry to help maintain pressure on the Arnor and High Elven players. I've got looks like my Elder Pathfinders. I charge them into battle, try and get a nice hammer and anvil strike onto the backs of the Dunedain forces as they were assaulting the runic ones. I took a couple of casualties in return, so I'm going to decide that it's not worth it, that I want to save my heavy cavalry for later in the battle, and I'm going to start to move them back. So my archers are beginning to run out of ammunition. You can see my Hiri Bang ready to charge into combat, storm this hill. And it looks like I've finally gotten my ballista into combat, so we're going to start taking some shots at... oh, we missed it. We're taking some shots at his Smiths of Origin. You can see a few of them died right here. Very valuable units. Is not how you want to lose them at all. But once they charge into combat, we're going to start to take down his catapults. So one of his catapults is already down. So we're finally starting to make some progress, make some headway to crushing this very stalwart defense from these allies up on the hill. Oh, did we get the last one? No, it's hidden behind this tree, but it's not long for this world. Not with that ballista shooting at it. Oh, some of his catapult's crew here just being skewered. And it looks like there's some no Tier 2 archers in there who are trying to support them. But at this point, victory is all but assured for our forces. You can see another shot going in there. Still missing, not quite getting them. But while all this is going on, I realize that now is the time. So I'm going to start to move my troops forward. I've only got a couple of units of archers who still have ammunition, so we're going to use all of that before we throw them into the fray. Looks like we've got 2 units of my now out of ammunition archers who are charging forward to join the final assault in this position. We've got some Dunedain Steel Bowmen here, his last unit, who's committed to the fray against the Sons of Durin, who are having a hard time fighting both the Smiths of Origin and these Dunedain Steel Bowmen at the same time. Victory is apparently a distinct possibility for these troops. That is until the arrival of my Elven soldiers in for vengeance. They want blood. So many of their brothers have died here, and they're just fighting amidst the corpses, just the ruin of my army. So these guys definitely want some. They want some. They want to pay back the Allied forces for all the death and destruction they've caused to their brothers. My Sylvan Heavy Archer's taking a lot of damage on that charge, though. A bit of a disorganized, scattered charge. But we are beginning to slowly tip the balance in favor of our allies. These Dunedain Steel Bowmen defeat now certain for them as more and more of my troops pour in. I got another unit of heavy archers. My Hiri Bang now involved in the combat, slaughtering the Dunedain Steel Bowmen. This poor bastard right here.
Continue like this, we will smash the enemy.
It looks like the remains of his catapult crew. I think we managed to finally take down that last catapult piece. So yeah, it's been destroyed by our ballista. And so he's charging the rest of his troops in the battle, but we are overrunning them. My first wave got butchered, but now my troops are beginning to make headway. These Sylvan Heavy Archers showing themselves to be just as devastating in melee as they can be at range. And I think the Dwarven player is arriving with the rest of his infantry. We've got some more Ironfoot Warriors, more Ironfoot Warriors, some Kazite Orc Hunters, more Kazakh Orc Hunters, and the remains of his Axemen of Erebor. And it looks like we've still got some Ironfoot Pikemen yet to come. So the allies here are doomed. They've done a wonderful job at holding off our forces, but we're just managing to... they don't have the troops left to stop themselves from being outflanked. So I brought some of my cavalry around the back, as you can see here, charging up this hill to avenge the defeat of my Pathfinders earlier on in the battle, which you saw. Charging downhill into this unit of Eldarin archers. We actually had a nice countercharge by the Nori Tirno archers up on the hill, but alas, it wasn't enough. We had time to drop our lances, so they were run over. We charged immediately downhill, wiping out this unit. You can see another downhill charge going off into the backs of these Boquendi, outflanking the rest of their line. So the High Elven player, even BR16, is going to start to move his pikemen back to drive my cavalrymen off of this hill and stop them from crushing what remains of their defense. A good move on his part, but unfortunately, at the same time, the Dwarven player sees what's going on, so he's going to start to pepper these guys in the rear with some armor-piercing crossbow bolts. So, good move on the part of even BR16. It just does not have the troops left. But it got them in spear wall formation, so I can see this, and I'm going to just ride around them because they don't have the mobility. And at the same time, the spear line is just being devastated. It's really starting to thin out from crossbow fire. You can see what remains of the High Elven forces fighting for their lives. Mithlon nobles down to 15. Or down to 7, even worse, down to 7, fighting against what remains of these Loki Scion Rim who've been in the fight pretty much since the start. And these Imladris Guards are really all that remains of the High Elven army at this point. So I'm taking my Elder King's Guard. I'm going to charge them down on this left, left spur into the backs of what remains of the Arnor infantry. The Steel Bowmen here fighting for their lives. Looks like we've got Smith of Eritrean. We can see the High Elven General right there. Oh no, he's pinned, and there he goes, the last general of the enemy team, falling in glorious combat against our forces. And with that, it's pretty much the end of the battle. We've managed to take this hill at great cost. You can see just destruction. Look at all of these troops. So many of them died. This is like the demise of my and Rune's army, only saved by the timely intervention of the victorious Dwarven forces. Looks like the Spear Guard's trying to get into formation, making a final stand, but it's not going to make a lick of difference. My Elder King's Guard, backed up by my Elder Pathfinders, charging into battle against these heavily reduced pikemen, who are no longer able to even form a spear wall, and thus are ineffective against my troops. Looks like Kamul's Shadow Guard actually has Kamul the Easterling. You can see a custom model for him. I didn't even notice that earlier. But yeah, you can see Kamul the Easterling joining us in the battle. The elves and the ring race fighting together. Go figure. So that is all that remains of the forces up here on the hill. There is actually a bit of a surprise. Let's see. No, those are Arnor men-at-arms, broken from the fight earlier. These Ironfoot pikemen, I think they've been getting shot in the back by these guys. Here's your surprise. The Aorling archers moving forward, take some more shots at those Ironfoot pikemen. Honestly, at this point, it's just spite. They just wanna kill a few dwarves just to make themselves feel a little bit better. So I see them, I realize that we haven't gotten all of the enemy forces, and I'm going to start to move my infantry, what remains of them. You can see a lot of swords, big two-handed swords here, moving down into position to attack these Aorling archers, and at the same time moving up my cavalry for one final glorious charge into the remnants of the enemy troops. So we're going to speed it up just a little bit here, not too much to see. These Iron Pikemen getting shot in the back. Not going to get too many shots off on them. I don't think they're actually going to be able to kill any of them before my troops get into position. Glorious charge. These Aorling archers, they don't care. They're going to hold their ground. They're now out of ammunition, I believe. And this is going to be devastating. My troops are going to run right through them. And they're going to rout almost immediately. So that is the end of the battle. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you will join us and the community in the future for more of these amazing fights. We're going to take a look at the casualties here before we call it quits. My Elder King's Guard doing real well, 128 kills, 122 on my Hiri Bang, definitely doing the best out of all of my archers. The rest of my Sylvan Heavy Archers did kind of just okay. My Huron Ek doing really good for Spearmen, that's not bad at all. My Ballista getting 15 kills, although some of those were artillery kills, so that's pretty high value. Sylvan Heavy Swordsman, one of them only getting 17, it's a little bit disappointing. The other one getting 89 and 56, so it's not so bad. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!